cash and investment reports presented by our finance director. Steve, take it away.
So here's 10A. Investment report. Here's the financier.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. For the month of March 2017, the disbursements of the city were $869,282. We took in, the demands were $656,000 of that, and the remainder was the payroll. There were 3 payroll periods in the month of March. You know, employees, city council commissioners are all paid on a bi-weekly basis. And so that's why there's 3 payroll periods.
I'm behaving myself today.
This month. The items that were dispersed during the month were
Okay.
How'd you
were
get here?
routine.
Because somebody,
The
I
average,
some old customer.
it was, you know, the
Old
average,
customer.
Someone drove you?
for the
Someone drove you?
years,
Okay, I'll drive you.
which is
That's fine.
page 21 of the agenda items. You know, the average per month is about $713,000, and for this,
If you could speak up to the mic.
oh,
for
I'm sorry,
translation.
okay, great.
Wow, he looked up at him. Wow.
So, and for
Oh
this
my God, I'm
month, the
impressed.
disbursements are, for the general fund disbursements are within,
He actually looked
the
up.
average of that. So that would conclude my comments.
Thank you.
You'd be ashamed of yourself.
Pass it over to Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank God. Some sanity. Someone actually knows how to. There you go. Good boy. Good Hernandez.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to oppose this motion on the basis that this budget was irresponsibly assembled,
Yeah.
and the results, most recently summarized in our agenda packet, present a dire financial situation for
Yep.
the city. First, let me admonish the city for neglecting its solemn obligation to pass a balanced budget on time, and then to introduce
never-
a mid-year
it never
report
does.
that is also severely late. What is the point of recalibrating a budget when the fiscal year is almost over? Complete window dressing by the city council.
Ha.
We were 4 months late into the fiscal year against the recommendations of the LA County Civil Grand Jury, which, by the way, in its report, rated the city of Cudahy dead last among LA County cities in terms of financial best practices.
That's not
The
good.
California State Controller similarly, in its authoritative report of 2014, similarly recommended to the city of Cudahy that it pass balanced budgets on time.
Yeah.
For 4 months this last fiscal year, we
This is
operated
Cudahy.
without a budget, and by extension, without any strategic direction. There is simply no excuse for this.
Yep.
By any measure, this is irresponsible financial conduct by the council, and the blame lies squarely where the buck stops, which is the city council. I shall express also my profound disagreement with this council's regular practice of violating budgetary parameters,
Ha.
exacerbating budgetary deficits, and depleting our general reserve balance in the process. Last year, against the backdrop of my clear and repeated warnings, the city council sold the people an unrealistically achievable budget,
Ha.
which first targeted $3 million ending reserve balance, only to adjust this down to $2.6 million, and then missing the mark altogether beyond everybody's expectations by converging on a reserve balance of $2 million. I knew from the very start that the original estimate was dishonest because it was predicated on unrealistically achievable assumptions like quadrupling parking citation fees on the revenue side
Ugh.
and severely underestimating our city attorney fees on the expense side.
These guys
by
rip off
hundreds of
residents.
thousands of dollars.
Yeah, they're
Now,
not
with
too
respect to
comfy.
the current budget,
Shame on them.
which was severely late. The
Yup.
city council targets a $900,000 ending general reserve balance.
Ha.
A far cry from the $3.3 million on my last day as mayor in 2014.
These
But
guys are
alas,
criminals.
I'm afraid that this budget is also
And Hernandez
unrealistic.
thinks it's funny.
In fact, our ending balance at December 31, 2016 was actually negative 187,000.
Eee.
Below zero for the first time in the city's recorded history.
Ugh.
Basically using money from funds earmarked for restricted purposes. This happens to be illegal. Based on the March results, and overlay of last year's seasonality normalized for certain unusual disbursements, I estimate that we are still trending unfavorably for year-end results. My extrapolation to year-end general fund balance
Councilmember
is $500,000, well below the
Councilmember
targeted
Guerrero.
year-end balance.
Thank
That's
you.
a real problem for us.
You guys are crooks.
That's too much. Very bad.
I know he's Roy Ball's kid.
Very bad.
Bleh.
Oh, it's
Just point
looking
of
about you.
clarification, there-
Right.
There is no motion on the floor currently.
How about a motion to fire you all?
Just before we get ahead of ourselves, before reading.
Oh,
this.
sorry, we can't do that.
All right, any other comments from my colleagues, Councilman Markovich?
This guy harasses women and children.
I'll go ahead and make that motion. to approve 10A.
Come on, Nowie. Grow up.
There's been a motion and a second, can we get a roll call, please?
Nowie harasses women and children. I want you to see this.
Yes, moving on to 10B, approval of the local agency investment fund late for the month of March 2017, presented by our finance director. Steve, take it away.
They have no integrity. That's why.
For the month of March 2017, the amount in late, the beginning balance was $3,959,000. And the ending balance as well was $3,959,000. So there was no additions to or withdrawals from late. In this report, for this month, we've included the, it's on page 26 of the agenda. It's the Pooled Money Investment Board report. This is we report on quarterly how the state of California has, and the LAY fund, the local agency investment fund, has.
This is when it's going to get interesting.
So that.
Okay,
every
I'll be
quarter
back,
we do
everybody.
include this just to show you how the money that. the
Let's
city
find out
has
what Jack has to
invested
say
in
about
this
these other
pool
agenda items.
Is being invested. And you'll have different, they have different schedules, and they get into a lot of detail, but basically on page 3 of the report, which is page 30 of the agenda packet, it shows the portfolio composition, $71.9 billion of all the participants as of March 31st, 2017. It shows the various investments that they have, the pooled money is being used for. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you so much for that, Stephen. Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank God.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to oppose this motion on the grounds that the city is mismanaging our LAIF and the current balance that we have in reserve. I'm going to speak specifically about the general fund.
I just want everyone to notice how they think it's funny.
Component of the LAIF.
They
historically.
think it's funny.
It's approximately 50% in recent years. At the moment, it's hovering around 25%, but historically, it has represented the single biggest component of our overall investment fund. So I want to focus on the general fund, which has a current balance of about $1.1 million with 3 more months left in the fiscal year, and grave risk of reducing that $1.1 million significantly over the next few months if we take into consideration prior year's seasonality. But I want to relate to this community that we have a more dire situation than what the general reserve balance would suggest. Because yes, we have $1.1 million in the bank with respect to the general fund, but we owe at least $7 million, in my estimation, for pensions. Okay, in the most recent audited financial statements, the unfunded obligation associated with pensions is a more modest figure. But I have long argued that the assumptions underlying that modest figure are flawed. We need to use a discount rate that is a lot closer to the risk-free rate of return. I know this sounds very technical, but basically there are assumptions, mathematical assumptions in the way that we calculate the future stream of obligations and the present value of the assets that exist to fund those obligations. That differential, if you use a discount rate that is closer to the risk-free rate of return, that is to say, we use an assumption that the growth in investments over time will be modest, then the present value of that unfunded obligation is astronomical. In my calculation, in my estimation, it's closer to $7 million. I speak with some level of authority. I was a pension auditor for a number of years when I started out professionally. I used to audit municipalities and agencies of the federal government. I looked at
These guys don't even have a
obligations
job.
all the time as part of normal
These guys don't
course
have a job.
procedures. And I really fear that in the city of Cudahy, we are at grave risk of creating a severe problem for ourselves. $7 million is the current estimate, based on my calculation, of that unfunded obligation. So think of that $7 million as debt. That is what we owe, and we are obligated to pay that over time. So we need to get our act together. For 4 years, I have been talking about this. For 4 years. And my colleagues keep kicking the can
That's
down
right.
the proverbial road.
Because they're corrupt.
That is irresponsible.
Yep.
Okay, that is irresponsible. They do that in Washington, D.C.
They're little
But
children.
that's no excuse. One of our colleagues suggested that this is not even a municipal problem, that this is a state problem.
Ha!
That reflects a complete lack of knowledge of basic principles of pension funds. So let's get our act together.
You have to pay attention, Chris. Oh, brother.
Councilmember Markovich.
Of course
Vice
not.
Mayor Hernandez.
No.
It's been the same speech for the past 4 years.
No comment.
It's been the same speech for the past 4
They don't know how to
years.
count.
Usually when there's problems, you provide solutions to those
Wow.
problems. But you have yet to bring, excuse me, now this is my public comment. So I'm gonna interrupt you, you don't interrupt. Okay?
Oh, but he interrupted me and you didn't give me 10 seconds.
Excuse me.
Commissioner Hernandez said something to
All right. Excuse me. All right, Councilman Guerrero, your 3 minutes, your 3-minute speech has ended.
Darn.
Okay. So when you're ready to actually provide substance and solutions, excuse me, Councilman Guerrero, not your turn. Yeah, 3 minutes. We have the city finance director sitting right over there. You can set up a meeting with the city finance director and provide solutions to your doomsday scenario. The
Sorry.
doomsday scenario that you've been so eloquently providing us for the past 4 years.
It's
We were
called
supposed to go
English.
bankrupt 2 years ago. We're supposed to go bankrupt last year. We're supposed to go bankrupt this year. If you want to instill fear in the residents,
Oh,
by all
fear.
means, it's your prerogative. You can take
City
that
attorney's getting
stance.
nervous. Sorry.
That's not the stance
Sorry.
that we're going to take.
Oh, okay.
We've invested nearly $500,000 on the general plan update, which is
Aw.
going to revitalize Atlantic Boulevard,
Yay.
which is an investment that's going to pull in sales revenue, which is going to bring in property value, which is going to bring in jobs that we can all be proud of. We're going to knock down the liquor stores that have been there for numerous years. We're going to knock down those laundromats, and we're going to invest in our city. That's what we're going to do.
Oh.
And if you want to be a part of something dynamic, I encourage you to join us. If not, you can continue reading that same spiel for the next
Gosh.
4 years. And that will forever be your legacy. With that,
And
is
being the
there a
top
motion to
vote getter.
approve Agenda item 10B. Is there a second? Been a
Yeah.
motion and a second. City clerk, can we get a roll call, please? Yes, Councilmember Guerrero?
Absolutely
No.
not. This is irresponsible. Mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, this is irresponsible.
Councilmember Markovich?
Yes.
Sure, yes.
Vice Mayor Hernandez?
Yes.
Sure, yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. Motion passes.
Sure,
Moving on to 10C, consideration to review and approve the draft minutes of January 9th. This is
Why are they talking
pretty
about the
straightforward.
minutes?
Motion, is there a second?
Why are they talking about
Motion
minutes
and
from
a second.
January?
Get a roll call,
It's
please.
May.
Yes.
How did they miss this?
Councilmember Guerrero?
Yes.
Councilmember Markovich?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hernandez?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, he's not doing it the
Passes.
same way.
Moving on to 10D, consideration of the second reading of ordinance number 669, adding chapter 1.4 to title 1 of the Cudahy Municipal Code to establish the date of the city's general municipal elections as the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November of each even-numbered year in accordance with the Election Code, Section 1301 and 1403 of Senate Bill 415.
Okay, so this was a
Biggest
bill.
Government reform to hit the city of Cudahy, which is a consolidation of these elections to increase
Right.
voter turnout. Presented, there's been a motion.
They have
to accept.
illegals and dead people vote. Why do they need an increased turnout?
Any appetite for discussion from my colleagues? Absolutely.
Can I say
Let's
something?
go ahead and have a presentation by our city attorney's office first.
Oh, I'm not his colleague. I don't want to be his colleague. No.
See that?
Very short presentation, Mayor, members of the council. The last meeting, we presented with the attached ordinance, which complies with SB 415, that is a legislative tool to consolidate local elections with the general elections statewide on the same date. What this means for the city of Cudahy is a move to a November of even numbered years regular election schedule. The first such election would be in November of 2018. It will result in shortening of terms. I believe the approximate length of term will be shortened by about 4 months. That's for everybody sitting up there.
Oh, that means we can get rid of him sooner.
By state law.
You can get rid of him
the
sooner.
Election date cannot result in a lengthening or shortening of elections.
How about Bruce Sanchez? He doesn't think he has to show up.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Now handing it over to Councilmember Guerrero.
Yay.
Just going to reiterate a few concerns that I have about this proposition. I think in theory it is sensible for the long term, but the legislature gave us flexibility to implement that incrementally, to roll it out in a transitional, organized, methodical fashion.
Okay.
What this council wants to do is rush into it, and I have a couple of concerns about that. I think they're legitimate concerns. Number one, the public voted in this most recent election and in the election cycle 2 years ago to a 4-year term for each council member. That is the expectation of the public. So my reasoning is we should fulfill that obligation. Whether we like it or not, we have made an obligation to the public that we would elect individuals to terms of 4 years. So to adjust that willy-nilly without a methodical transitional process, I think is a little bit irresponsible. We should always honor the commitment we make to the public. No matter if it's a good idea to do it straight away or to hold off a little bit, I think in any case, we should always honor